The MAGA administration has a lot on its agenda. They are targeting immigrants, or more specifically, foreign students amongst others. Foreign students inflate the immigration numbers, and they also take places from American students, or so say the administration.
I'm not going to have a problem with foreign students, but it shouldn't be 31%. It's too much because we have Americans that want to go there.
And they have a particular problem with Chinese students. These students they see as potential spies, security risks. So why would America let them in? In late May, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that he would aggressively revoke the visas of all Chinese students.
That is the message, the warning, and the threat, really.
Only for President Donald Trump a couple of weeks later to say that he's never had a problem with Chinese students.
Look, I've always been in favor of students coming in from other countries. That includes China. And we have 500,000 Chinese students coming in. I've always been in favor of it.
So what's going on? Well, at the moment, these young people are being used as a political football between these two great powers. In the West, the conversation tends to be that these students are either customers of the higher education sector or potential spies. Take the cautionary tale of Tian Xuesen. He was born in Shanghai, but then went to the States to study at MIT. He rose to become one of America's leading rocket scientists and helped to lay the groundwork of what became NASA. And yet, at the height of McCarthyism, he was accused of being a communist spy. No evidence ever came to support this claim. Yet, in 1955, he was deported to China. Even more stupid than the injustice of sending someone back who was not a communist spy was the fact that he then went on to help Maoist China create what it called 2 bombs and a satellite. Intercontinental missile, a nuclear missile, and its first artificial satellite. Tian had been one of America's brightest scientists, and America sent him back to the other side. Today, the US and China seem to be in a second Cold War. The US, under Presidents Trump and Biden, have controlled its exports of semiconductors, while China, on the other hand, is choking off its exports of rare earths. But as well as these resources that the two countries are fighting over, what about the brains that can invent and use these critical technologies? China does see these students as an asset and wants them to come back wherever possible, but the West is still pushing them away for fear that they are security risks. We're talking about a population of 1 million Chinese students worldwide. And there have only been a handful of reports about what some of them, a tiny minority, have been doing. Some of these students have been acting as informers on their peers and on their lecturers for the Chinese embassy. There are others who have been alleged to have sent expertise and research back to China, sometimes illegally. This will be IP theft. And finally, there is also a risk of training up this talent only for them to take the latest technologies and research back to China. Once we understand these risks, it's much easier to mitigate and prioritize them. For example, when it comes to campus freedom, one former director at MI6 told me that actually this is not a dagger at the heart of British security, although it is very, very deeply concerning for those involved. And so why don't the security services provide more help for the academics and students who fear they are victims of transnational repression? As for the transfer of knowledge back to China, anything illegal should of course be cracked down upon. And we should also start vetting those students who are working at the heart of the most critical STEM subjects, and maybe at the most advanced levels too. We might not want to accept students who take Chinese state funding. These are all measures that can mitigate the risks that come from the minority of students who do pose a risk. Knowledge is not something that you can keep hold of within national borders, at least not for long. For now, the West has the research superiority in many areas, but China is also catching up fast. Soon it will be a question of how can we start to tap into Chinese expertise on certain questions. So let's start by cementing this brain drain, as long as we can get past this second Red Scare.